Hi, I'm Katie Maris, and welcome to Now Is Non-negotiable, winning the war between you and your mind. This is your weekly 10-minute reminder that God didn't create you to live small, stuck, or silenced by fear. You were made with purpose on purpose. Each episode is a gentle nudge forward, a space to reconnect with truth, shift your mindset, and remember who you are in Him. I have lived through the darkest of days. I know what it's like to question your worth, to carry the weight of shame, and to wonder if breakthrough will ever come. But I also know this: God never wastes pain, and you are never too far gone for His plan. These moments we spend together, they're about learning to surrender the lies, show up with grace, and take bold steps right in the middle of the mess. This isn't about perfection, it is about progress. It's about trusting that even the smallest step in faith can lead to big transformation. Because your mind is a battlefield, and God has already equipped you for victory. Your healing, your calling, your freedom, they all start now. And now is non-negotiable. Hi y'all, Katie here. I have to say I am nervous and excited for this episode, the first episode of the Now Is Non-negotiable podcast, winning the war between you and your mind. Why am I so nervous? Well, I had a podcast. The podcast was taken down. I took it down. I took it down and stopped it for many, many reasons, but there were reasons why I didn't put it back up. And that reason, the main reason, was because I am in a new season. A chapter has turned over for me, and the hurt and pain and heartbreak of my past no longer serves me, except as a reminder of just how good God is. I have been struggling with the launch of my new brand, Now Is Non-negotiable. I had a new coaching program, new website, new keynote, because it felt forced. Now, I have had marketing companies help me out, and what they were asking me to do didn't feel quite right. I felt much like an imposter, and I've recently realized why that was. It was because there's a whole part of my story missing. Yes, I am a domestic abuse survivor. I was discarded by my abuser. He took my money, told me to go sell my body for groceries because I was good at it. I have endured over 17 accounts of physical assault, not even to take into account there my mental, emotional, sexual abuse, financial abuse, and I have walked through that fire. And there was an evening where I completely surrendered to God. See, He liked me to take certain pictures before I would get into a shower or a bath, and shortly after He discarded me, He decided, I knew that I didn't have to do this anymore. And my body, though, didn't know what to do, and I fell to the floor naked, weeping, tired, struggling, ready to give up. And I looked up. And in that moment of tears, of my body heaped over on the cold tile floor of my bathroom, I begged God to let me lean on Him. That moment is a moment I haven't shared because I've kept my faith to myself. Not purposely, but maybe just not ready to share it publicly. And as I created this new brand, which by the way, now is non-negotiable and my coaching is stellar, it was missing a key component, and that was faith. So I've decided that Now Is Non-negotiable, at least this podcast right now, is going to be a faith-based podcast where I get to talk to you about my insights and learnings through scriptures, or whatever God has placed on my heart, in hopes that you can take one step forward, even if you're in the middle of the mess. So this podcast isn't meant to be loud or flashy. I don't even think I'll be promoting it unless it decides to take off like Wild Horse, which I guess Wild Horses, I hope it does, because that means it's helping more people. But this is really a place where I get to show up for you. I'm producing it myself. I had a company do my last podcast. I had a producer. I was, spending money I didn't have in faith that it would take off. And the reality is it didn't. And it didn't because it wasn't meant to be. And so this is my small step I am taking. And that's the topic today I wanted to talk to you about. So I'm going to dive right in. I'm already 5 minutes into this recording, and I promise these podcast episodes to be short. But progress isn't always loud. Sometimes it's just showing up. And so I could have put off this recording till things were perfect. I could have decided not to do it based off of fear of how it's going to be received. Instead, I'm showing up and I am making some progress towards what I believe is my purpose here on earth. So there is power, though, in consistency and obedience. I'll talk a little bit about why Now Is Non-negotiable relates so much so to faith and God's word. See, if you have ever read the Bible, you will see that the stories in the Bible, they mimic the same story arc. You're obedient to God, and I'm definitely simplifying here. You're obedient to his word. You follow his word, you live in abundance, you live in ease, live in joy, and then all of a sudden you decide to idol something else, whether it's coveting someone else, looking inward at yourself, or idolizing another god. You get off the straight and narrow path, you stop becoming obedient, you stop becoming consistent, and then your world sort of goes awry. You start negotiating with faith. You start negotiating with your future self because of that. And the reality is right now is all we have. And so if you can show up consistently and in obedience to his word or to your promises that you make yourself, then you're going to win. And there is that power in that consistency. There is that power in the right now. And when you stop negotiating with your future self, your finances, your future health, your faith journey. And when you stop doing that and you start to create consistency, even when it's not perfect, because that's huge. You do not have to be perfect to be consistent. I have done things over so many times, but I have shown up. And I've been able to keep walking forward because I've shown up. I'm actually, as it stands right now, 117 days in to reading the Bible every single morning and reading his word before I flip open my phone. And I made that commitment to myself, and it has drawn me so much more nearer to God and to a higher level of energy and gratitude for what I have right now. I want you to think of small pivots instead of big leaps when you are preparing to transform yourself, when you're preparing to do something new, when you are stepping in progress and daring yourself to show up. Because every small yes, every small step is a seed you're planting, is a crop that you are sowing for your future. Small pivots will take you So far, when I was discarded, my small pivots were brushing my teeth and getting out of bed and eating a meal and sending a cold email or making that cold phone call or daring to pray at night on my knees before bed. Small little pivots. And it reminds me of Galatians 6:9. Do not grow weary in doing good. This verse is a gentle but firm encouragement to keep going, especially when the effort feels unnoticed, unrewarded, or exhausting. Paul is reminding us that doing the right thing, showing up in faith, loving others, staying kind, and living with integrity, these may not always have immediate rewards, but they matter. Small pivots. I want you to imagine an airplane that goes 1 degree off course. That airplane completely shifts its trajectory and ends up in a new destination. Pivots, not leaps. Consistent little pivots, not leaps. Sometimes we think progress means these huge, big wins, applause that are visible and everyone's celebrating you. But real growth, especially the kind that is rooted in faith and personal transformation, is quiet. It's the moments that you spend thinking and ruminating over all the should I, shouldn't I's, the quiet conversations that you have with God, the little lists you make yourself and you move into action. It's not always loud. And I've been contemplating this podcast for quite a bit of time before I actually got down to recording this episode. But every little step I have taken has led me here. And I've taken those steps consistently and quietly so that I can show up for you and share the part of my story that I hope inspires you to stay on a path of faith. Sometimes progress looks like getting out of bed when it's hard. It could look like choosing kindness when you're running on empty. Progress looks like continuing to serve others, whether you're parenting or leading, or when you help someone that is in need. These little actions, when done consistently, allows your growth and allows you to keep walking on a more straight and narrow path. Circling back to this verse, do not grow weary in doing good. It's a spiritual permission slip to keep showing up without needing the world to validate you, because God sees it and He promises a harvest if we don't give up. So I'm going to end today with a celebration. I want you to celebrate if you showed up today, if you got out of bed, if you brushed your teeth, if you ate a meal, if you showed up in kindness even when you didn't feel great. I want you to celebrate that you chose to give yourself grace or someone else grace. I want you to celebrate you because you didn't give up. And then I want you to pull out a journal. And I want you to write the things you are proud of with yourself. I want you to write your 5 top accomplishments that you have made. 5 incredible I am statements that has you feeling like the incredible human that you are. You are building even when it feels slow. And that message is something even I need to hear every single day. Progress isn't always loud. Sometimes it is just showing up. And when you really connect the dots backwards, you see how things progress, how they work out, and how He is with you in every single step. So please do not grow weary in doing good. When you do good for yourself and do good for others in small, little ways, you shift your world. Remember, stop negotiating with the way you view yourself, the way you view your faith, the steps that you're taking. Just stop. Live in the right now, because you are building something, even when it feels slow. So give yourself permission to celebrate where you're at right now. This has been incredible. I ran over by 4 minutes. I might have to change the format of this podcast. But thank you for listening in to the very first episode of Now Is Non-negotiable, winning the war between you and your mind. Because the reality is, your mind is a battlefield, but God has equipped you for victory. And together, we are going to stop negotiating with your future.